This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington as the city of Charleston, South Carolina prepares for a week of funerals following last week's massacre at a historically black church. Governor Nikki Haley is calling for the Confederate flag to be removed from the grounds of the state capitol. And she's being joined by a growing list of lawmakers. Senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel has our top story tonight.
Late today, South Carolina's top Republicans, including the governor and both senators, one a presidential candidate and one an African-American, called for the Confederate flag to be removed from the north lawn of the State House in Columbia. That's after the suspect in last week's church shooting in Charleston was photographed with that flag.
Today, we are here in a moment of unity in our state, without ill will, to say it's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds.
The Confederate flag blew up into a huge 2016 campaign issue when 2012 Republican nominee Mitt Romney tweeted on Saturday, "Take down the Confederate flag at the SC Capitol. To many, it is a symbol of racial hatred. Remove it now to honor Charleston victims." Dr. Ben Carson, the African-American Republican candidate for president, downplayed the issue on Fox and Friends.
You can put up Confederate flags everywhere, or you can get rid of all the Confederate flags. It's not going to make any difference. What's going to make a difference is, do we change people's hearts?
In an interview with Fox's Brett Baer, Florida Senator Marco Rubio said it's an issue South Carolina has grappled with for a long time.
Ultimately, the people of South Carolina are capable of having that debate again. And whether it's because of this incident or something else, I think they are more than capable of figuring it out for themselves.
Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush issued a statement Saturday saying, quote, "My position on how to address the Confederate flag is clear. In Florida, we acted moving the flag from the state grounds to a museum where it belonged." Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee suggested the South Carolina flag issue is a trap.
For those of us running for president, everyone's being baited with this question as if somehow that has anything to do whatsoever with running for president, and my position is it most certainly does not.
The Arkansas flag's top blue star reflects that it was a member of the Confederacy. Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton was First Lady of Arkansas before her husband was elected president. Clinton hasn't taken a question on the Confederate flag in South Carolina, but her campaign says she's been against it since 2007 when she called for it being removed from the State House grounds. Her two opponents, Senator Bernie Sanders and former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, both said the flag belongs in a museum. Following Haley's announcement, a number of GOP candidates have expressed support for her decision. The issue may have taken them to a certain extent off message for a small window of time, but now that prominent South Carolina officials have spoken, they may be able to focus on the top issues on their agendas. Brett?
Mike, what about this controversy with Senator Ted Cruz and this picture of a gun?
They are Associated Press photos showing him at a gun range in Johnston, Iowa. What some found disturbing was the fact that they show a pistol being pointed at his head. And some suggested the AP would not have issued photos like that for a prominent Democrat. The AP says the images were not intended to cast Cruz in a bad light. Today, 5 of the pictures were pulled and are no longer available to clients who want to buy them. Brett?
Interesting. Well, do you think South Carolina should get rid of the Confederate flag? Let me know at Facebook.com/BrettBaerSR or on Twitter @BrettBaer. You can use the hashtag #SpecialReport. In the wake of South Carolina, President Obama is underscoring his disappointment with the nation's race relations by using what is perhaps the most universally condemned racial epithet. It came during a podcast discussion in which the president said the legacy of slavery still casts a long shadow on the nation. Correspondent Kevin Corke is at the White House tonight. Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening, Brett. We have learned tonight the President, Vice President, and the First Lady will all head to South Carolina on Friday for the funeral of Reverend Pinckney, who was one of the victims in that massacre in Charleston. We also have learned that the President will deliver the eulogy. This on a day when the President's choice of words in a podcast has the White House in full damage control mode. His candor has caused an uproar when the president told a podcast audience that the United States had not overcome its history of racism. He used the N-word to make the case.
Racism, we are not cured of, clearly. And it's not just a matter of it not being polite to say nigger in public, that's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not.
It was part of a broader discussion on race and followed the deadly attack in South Carolina that saw an alleged white supremacist murder 9 blacks at a church Bible study. Despite the violence, the president contends that race relations have vastly improved.
It is incontrovertible that race relations have improved significantly during my lifetime and yours.
The uproar seemed to catch the White House off guard, though it wasn't the first time the president had used the N-word. It appears in print in his best-selling book, Dreams of My Father, and the audio version, the president himself reads that word aloud.
There's no decision made on the part of anybody here at the White House that we're going to capitalize on this audio interview from somebody's garage in California.
The podcast chat was with comedian Marc Maron, but there was nothing funny about the president's predictable pivot to gun control. Inciting devastating gun violence in Aurora, Sandy Hook, and Charleston, the president repeated his call for stricter gun laws.
I will tell you, right after Sandy Hook, Newtown, when 26-year-olds are gunned down, and Congress literally does nothing.
But with the nation still reeling and healing from South Carolina, critics said his tone and timing were terrible.
South Carolina has some of the strictest gun control laws in the nation. And all of the things that President Obama has been lobbying for are in place in South Carolina. So clearly they did not prevent this tragedy.
I think when there's that much evil in the heart, it is hard to think of the right legislative solution for that problem.
A solution the White House is still searching for.
If there is a simple thing that can be done that doesn't undermine our constitutional rights, that doesn't undermine the constitutional rights of law-abiding Americans, then we should do it.
Important to point out there is no evidence that any of the gun law proposals the president has made would have made any difference in the massacre in South Carolina, because the gun used in that shooting, Brett, was purchased legally.
Kevin Corke live on the North Lawn. Kevin, thank you. Now to politics 2016. Jeb Bush tops the latest poll of Republican presidential hopefuls. He checks in with 22%. Scott Walker, Marco Rubio, Ben Carson, and Mike Huckabee round out the top 5. 6 through 10, Rand Paul, Rick Perry, Chris Christie, Ted Cruz, and as you see here, Carly Fiorina breaks into the first tier. The opening GOP debate on Fox News, August 6th, will take the top 10 in an average of major polls. Over on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is embarking on a money blitz in coming weeks. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry, who's covering the Clinton campaign, tells us the effort may reflect a serious shortage of more than just money.
Hillary Clinton today launched a fundraising spree that will include nearly 30 campaign finance events between now and the 4th of July, according to a list obtained by Fox News. The dash for cash comes as all of the candidates in both parties are trying to show fundraising strength ahead of June 30th reporting deadlines with the Federal Election Commission. Though Clinton is facing special trouble locking down her base as the energy and momentum continues to swing to Socialist Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders, who was mobbed by a crowd of 5,500 people Saturday night in Denver.
I look forward to working with you all in creating the political revolution that this country needs.
Clinton's scramble for money over the next 2 weeks is taking her mostly to high-dollar homes along the East Coast, from New York to Philadelphia, Bethesda, Maryland, and Provincetown, Massachusetts, though today she's branching out to Indianapolis and Minneapolis, followed by Chicago and St. Louis tomorrow. Wednesday in New York, Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett are headlining a special concert to rake in money for Clinton, while next Monday on the Jersey Shore, John Bon Jovi will be doing the same. The fundraising frenzy comes as Clinton used an interview with WMUR in New Hampshire to push back on allegations about the propriety of massive contributions to her family's foundation. Clinton declaring, quote, "There was certainly nothing about the work of the foundation that in any way was used to influence any decisions I made at the State Department." Nonetheless, with Sanders drawing huge crowds across the country, Democrats close to Clinton appear to be trying to lower expectations.
We shouldn't be surprised that there is so much enthusiasm for him. And in fact, we shouldn't be surprised if he does very well in New Hampshire or in Iowa, and perhaps even wins.
Maria Cardona went on to say the Sanders rise is good for the Democratic Party because this will raise Clinton's game, and in the end, she'll be a stronger general election candidate. Brad.
Surging Sanders. Ed, thank you.
Good to see you.
The search for the 2 convicted killers who escaped a maximum security prison 2 weeks ago in upstate New York has shifted west. Authorities are searching around Owl's Head, New York. A man there says his cabin was burglarized, and DNA found at that campground is said to match both David Sweat and Richard Matt. Up next, the Taliban attacks Afghanistan's parliament. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 46 in Charlotte, where a 19-year-old man is charged with planning assassinations and violent attacks in the U.S. on behalf of ISIS. Justin Sullivan was arrested Friday. Prosecutors say he tried to obtain an AR-15 rifle at a gun show and was planning to kill a large number of Americans. Fox 45 in Baltimore with a cancer diagnosis for Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. The Republican says he's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer of the lymph nodes.
With my faith, my family, and my friends, I know that I won't just beat this disease, but that I'll be a better and stronger person and governor when we get to the other side of it.
Hogan took office in January. And this is a live look at San Francisco from our affiliate KTVU. The big story there tonight, Apple caves in to Taylor Swift. The company has reversed course, saying it will pay royalties to artists and record labels for music playing during the free trial of its new streaming service. Swift had said she would withhold her latest album from the service over this dispute. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.